Calling to order the regular meeting of the School District of River Falls School Board. This meeting has been properly notified, and we will begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We don't have visitors or delegations who have requested to speak before the board tonight, so we will move right on to informational items. And we have a superintendent's report.
Okay, making sure it's pulled up there on the screen. I have a few announcements, all with the broad topic of us getting ready for the start of a school year. We're really excited. When you hit August, there's a whole bunch of planning that ramps up and excitement that comes with the start of the school year. And the first announcement is we were lucky enough to earn some grants that we wanted the board to be aware of that will help prepare us for the start of the school year. The first one was a $14,000 award to the River Falls School District High School Welding Program. And the intention for that grant is it will support the expansion of welding and hands-on learning opportunities for students. It'll allow for the purchase of industrial welding tables and tungsten sharpeners. We really see lots of interest in this area, high levels of interest, and we want to be able to offer the chance to get kids in starting that hands-on work in a way that prepares them for the next steps of welding. So I just wanted to highlight, this came from Donaldson Filtration Solutions. That's where the grant came from. They are a large business, but an arm of their business is to recognize programs in the areas that are served by their businesses. And so Donaldson, I believe, has some a company or a plant or an area in Baldwin, and we were able to apply for this, and we're super excited. I want to recognize Matt Capitz. Matt is one of our CTE teachers who was a key part of this, and then also Melissa Hansen, who supported him through the application process. So we're super excited. It's great timing. In conversations with Kit at the high school, we're already trying to figure out how we can put together the purchase and make sure it fits together, and we're really appreciative of Donaldson for recognizing our need, and we're excited to use it.
Could we maybe give them a Wildcat award at some point?
Yes, so I did send a letter of thanks on behalf of the district to Donaldson, if you meant Donaldson.
Yeah, right.
And we can definitely look at other ways that we can recognize our great providers.
I think they would appreciate it.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
it's very awesome. We are also excited to report that we had a $10,000 award to the school forest. This is through the St. Croix Valley Foundation. St. Croix Valley Foundation has a whole bunch of different type of grant opportunities. This one was an environmental grant, and the committee put together the application, and the name of the application is Outdoor Learning, Exploring, and Restoring, and there's really three big areas that we're going to focus on. Developing a school forest curriculum in grades 4K through 5. And what we'll do there is to be able to carve out our elementary age teachers to develop specific field trips for each of those grade levels. Eventually the vision would be even maybe by season. We know that's a lot, but the idea then would make sure that every time they go out there, the learning experience is tied and connected to the standards of learning that happen within the school. And they're also not repetitive, right? So nothing worse than being a first grader coming out to the school forest and doing a field trip and the activity is substantially similar to what you did as a kindergartner. The first grader will let you know if that's the case. So we want to make sure that we're keeping things exciting. So that's one piece of the grant that we'll use. And then the other piece is to strengthen our outdoor and learning spaces and wildlife habitats and biodiversity. A couple things that we're going to do there is add another outdoor classroom. So if you've been out there, we're really proud of the pavilion. We have an Eagle Scout who is currently putting in another area kind of adjacent to the pavilion, and that's going to be, it will also serve as a fire pit if possible. And then this grant will allow us to have another learning space maybe a little bit farther into the prairie, and that would be limestone type sitting area, so it would be permanent. You can't move it, you can't wreck it. It'll be there for a lifetime. So we're excited about that. And then wildlife habitat, we're looking to add bat boxes and birdhouses. So that will help us build this, find the supplies and materials and hopefully work through the curriculum to have support building that. And then always, trail signage is always an issue there. Permanent trail signage is something that we're always working on. So we're excited to have that grant award and really thankful to have the St. Croix Valley Foundation in our community. So we're proud of that and excited to hit the ground running with that one. And the final grant award is from our American Legion Auxiliary. And so it has been a tradition for a while that our American Legion has donated $1,000 to a fund that allows students to have equal access to activities in athletics. So that goes into a fund, and Mr. Crail, when there's a need, can tap on that fund to allow students to participate in those activities. The auxiliary had heard about that and wanted to also participate in that donation, and they provided that donation. So we want to thank the auxiliary for recognizing the importance of those co-curricular activities, and again, just another example of the community that we live in and the support that students have. Sometimes I know our students maybe don't recognize all the things in the background that are working towards to support them, but we wanted to take time to recognize those things. So 3 awesome grant awards to start the year. Another exciting event that is also representative of our community is our Tools for Schools event, which is tonight and tomorrow. You'll see that Bo is not here, and Bo, in representing the school board, but also in his place of employment at First National Bank, is participating in the Tools for School event. It's a school supply event that's available to any River Falls School District family who has a need. And tonight they're handing out supplies and shoes, and there's a picnic meal available. And then tomorrow from 10 a.m. to noon, if you weren't able to come tonight, then those supplies and shoes are also available. So there's some information there on how to register for that event, but we are very thankful not only for First National Bank and First Congregational Church, but all of the different community organizations that donated, whether it was money or actual school supplies to it. It's a pretty awesome event, and it gets our students on the right foot as they enter into the school year. They have all the supplies that they need. They got a new pair of sneakers. They're ready to rock for the school year, and it builds that excitement for the start of the year. And we feel very fortunate to be in a community that does that. August preparations. So starting last week, we really started to see the preschool events taking place with our staff. So last week, the bus garage and transportation center with support from Nate and others, Lynette and Katie Terra-Savage, did a bus driver training. That was really nice because it was in our new bus driver training area, which was pretty awesome. We had prior to that, we had done it in Greenwood, and it was in a little bit larger area and kind of hard to hear. This was a much more classroom-like setting, and I think it went really well. And then on the 12th of last week, we did substitute teacher training, which has become an annual event, very well received. One of the awesome things that Nate and his team does to plan that out is that every year at the end they ask for feedback. Well, what type of training do you want? And then that really kind of drives what the training looks like in the next year. We get really good participation. One thing that's come up is how can we do a substitute teacher training in the middle of the year as we have more people add on? And that's something that we're looking to do, try to navigate that, maybe do something in the middle of the year. Today and tomorrow is new teacher orientation. We welcomed 20 to 25, I don't know the exact number, Nate, do you have it?
21 that were there.
21 new teachers, which if you're scoring at home is a lower number than we've had in prior years, which points to the fact that we've had pretty good retention this year, which we're proud of. And those 21 teachers come to us with a great deal of experience, and we're really excited to have them. They had a busy day today, and then they'll have a full day tomorrow as well. And what's really neat about the new teacher orientation and the next one, the para orientation, is there's a lot of support from the community and other school organizations to make sure that we get them off to a good start. So on the 20th, which is Thursday, in addition to the paraprofessional orientation, we also have the Curriculum Academy, and so the board will recognize that this is the first year that we moved from 188 contract days to 189 contract days, and so this Curriculum Academy day is the additional day. And Mary Beth and Amy and lots of people with them, our principals and our coaches and other administrators, have taken time to craft a day that's very focused on curriculum development and also allowing our staff some time to work in the teams, their grade level teams or their content area teams or their PLCs to prepare for the start of the school year. And we're excited to have that in-service activity and that curriculum academy time kind of in a nice big chunk. And that allows the next 4 days, which is next week, of fall in-service, which we know is filled with lots of different things from district-wide trainings to preparing for open houses to getting your room ready to special education meetings. There's just a whole lot in those days get chunked up for our teachers. So we're hoping that this curriculum academy gives them maybe that longer stretch to prepare for the start of the year. So we will, just like we always do, get feedback from those teachers on how that day went and craft an update how that goes in future years. And then open houses are next week. So Meyer Middle is on the 25th, and that model is sort of kind of what I would say is a true open house, 12 to 7, and it's really a rolling thing. You're never going to have one time where there's just a whole bunch of people there. Elementary, high school, and RCA's open house is the next day on the 26th, and those are more evening events. So I think elementary is 3 to 6, and the high schools are 5 to 8. And so a nice opportunity for everybody to get in the classroom, meet their teacher, and get square for the start of the year. So we're very excited. As we embark on the new school year, I'm going to take a little time to recap some conversations that the board has had at our retreat about the renewal of our strategic plan. And so if you follow the strategic plan closely, you know that it runs through 2027. So we see that as this school year. So the goals and action steps and our scorecard and the way we're tracking our progress towards our strategic plan will remain the same for this next school year for 26-27, while at the same time we're developing the 5-year plan that will replace our current strategic plan. And so if you start with what our objective is for that, it's to facilitate an update of our strategic plan, and what that will look like, the deliverables that we'll have will be updated goal areas in alignment to a refined mission, vision, and values, and a district-specific scorecard with performance indicators that benchmark progress towards those strategic plan goal areas. So we are going to be working over the next school year to develop that so that when we start the 27-28 school year, we can start working towards those goals. And a couple things that I want to highlight. One, refined mission, vision, and values doesn't mean we're going to completely do a rewrite. We feel like the feedback that we get on an annual basis from our community, whether it's our staff, whether it's our students, whether it's our families, indicates that there's a recognition that our current mission, vision, and values are aligned to community values. That doesn't mean that we're going to take that for granted, so that's why there's the refinement piece. We want to make sure, we want to confirm that that's the case. And then just like anything, the next 5 years, the goals that we will implement to achieve that might look a little bit different. Even if they're in the same family of goals, we need to reset it and look at those. And so that will be a big piece of the work this school year is to work towards that. So what does it mean to work towards it? A broad outline of the planning phases we will use to update our strategic plan. The first piece is we're going to identify a strategic planning committee, and that committee will have diverse representation. Staff from different employee groups will be part of it. The school board will have a representative, but it won't be the entire school board. Community members, parents, students, looking at about 25 to 30 people. They will play a big role in taking in all of that information from the last 5 years, the data that we've gotten from the last 5 years, other information that we've collected. Their job will be to look at that. And so the next phase of that is the gathering feedback and data phase. So we're going to conduct stakeholder listening sessions. We're going to survey the entire community. We're going to assemble student learning and engagement data. So we're going to grab a whole bunch of data that will tell a story of how things are going within the district. And then that SPC is going to look at that data. They're going to prioritize it. They're going to summarize that feedback, and they're going to revisit, refine our mission, vision, and values. And then they're going to identify the strategic objectives for the next 5 years. And then the next big piece of that is to articulate the performance measures against those strategic objectives. And so We really truly believe that the strategic plan should be something that we're having conversations about every day. I would hope that our employees have a recognition of it. Our board has a recognition of it, our administrators have a recognition of it, and it's used to drive the decisions that we make as a district. And so this becomes pretty important work that we want to give its due time. So we're having conversations now about it, but this work will be taking place throughout the entire school year.
You know, Dave, I wonder if sometimes in the community if people understand what strategic plan means.
Sure.
Because I think it means different things.
Yeah.
And basically we're trying to figure out what it is we're gonna be our focus for the next 5 years and how we're gonna do it and how
Right.
we're gonna measure ourselves, right? So
Yep.
even though it's got a fancy name, it
Yep.
basically, we're all on the same page, knowing where we're going and how we're gonna do it.
Yep.
Good point.
Thank you for clarifying. Yeah, there's lots of different ways that you can say it. To me, it's our roadmap, right? It's one thing to say you have a mission, it's one thing to say you have a vision, and you can do a lot of talking around that, but when you get to a strategic plan, you're clearly identifying goals and then action steps towards those goals, and then an accountability around how you're gonna measure progress towards those goals. So I think that's good. I think we've learned a lot in the last 5 years, even more specifically in the last 2 years, with how we're collecting data, the goals that we're setting. And I think that learning, whether it's our representatives from each building coming and talking about some of their goals, or whether it's our different committees and their goals that are aligned to the strategic plan that have data behind them, I think that's something that we've learned a lot from, and it will tailor and improve what the next 5-year strategic plan looks like. So then the next piece is the SPC will present the plan for the board to adopt. So the board will be provided updates throughout this process. We don't want surprises, but ultimately we want that committee to come and share the work that they've done with the full board. And then we will communicate those documents out, and that will be a detailed action plan. It will also be a plan on a page summary that people understand, and a monitoring scorecard that we will fill out throughout the 5 years. And then we'll start planning it, and we'll be implementing in year 1. So it will be something that will become a part of board updates on a regular basis. I just wanted to make sure that the board was aware. We're excited to move forward with that. Later in the agenda, we'll have an approval for a consulting firm to support us with that work. And at the retreat, we had a good conversation, a robust conversation around why we chose that one. And when we get to that, I can provide a little bit more summary on that. And so one thing that I mentioned in here is a community feedback survey. Okay, so this will be one of the key ways that we collect feedback from our community within the school year, within the planning phases for the strategic plan update. And so the last time we did this was in 2023. And so the thing that distinguishes this between other ways that we collect feedback is this will be given to the entire community. It complements the staff, student, and parent surveys that we give out on an annual basis. So I say complement because we're probably not going to ask the exact same types of questions that we're asking to the staff, student, and parents in their stakeholder specific survey, but staff, student, and parents will fill this one out as well. And so the topics that will be part of this is just a gauge of the overall satisfaction within the district, feedback on our current goals, so the 5 goals in the specific in our current strategic plan. We're going to get some feedback on our progress towards those. And then we're going to ask our community where they feel our educational priorities should be and where the district should be focusing in the future from a support services lens as well. So we'll have educational priorities, but also support services, because we know those go hand in hand. And then it'll also be an opportunity to learn more about additional ways that we can provide feedback. So this survey will have information about how to participate in listening sessions with the SPC. So this is a broad overview. Go ahead.
Well, I was just gonna say, that goes out to everyone in the community
That's
or a
right.
sample size?
Nope,
So
it'll go out to everyone.
Everybody. So in addition to the stuff we've been getting, this will go to this large section of our community, of our
Yep.
district, who have no kids in the district.
Right.
But support us with their property taxes and their
Right.
donations and all kinds of other
Yep.
stuff. So we get that feedback as well as what's going on.
That's right.
Because our community supports us as a whole, so that's great.
Yep. And so we'll use School Perception. School Perception is the same organization that we've used in the past. There's a couple things that are nice around School Perceptions. The first thing is they do this throughout the Midwest, but pretty comprehensively in Wisconsin. So some of the questions we can benchmark against other school districts' feedback, which is helpful to gauge. In addition, they support, they're a independent third party, so it kind of supports the idea that this is a facilitated survey. It's not an in-house survey. We want to make sure that we're have the capacity then to get this survey to all of our stakeholders. There'll be a digital way that you can complete the survey. There'll also be a pen and paper way that you can submit the survey. So those things are all part of the process of implementation. And so what I didn't do today is give you the exact survey. I'm going to do that the next time we meet on September 28th. So we will take time between now and then to finalize the draft survey to present to the board, and then the board would have the ultimate opportunity to make any adjustments or changes that they want. So we're excited to go through that process. And one step in that is at the September 14th Ed Pro meeting. That'll be kind of your first chance to see it. So we want to make sure the board has an opportunity to give feedback before it's in that final phase. Once it's approved by the board, then we between the end of September and the end of October is when we sort of mobilize around sending the survey out. And then by the end of December, we would have it at the December school board meeting. That's when we would be able to go through the results as a school board. And that will work on the timeline for our strategic planning committee work, because during that time we'll also be organizing our listening sessions and collecting all of the other data points that we want for our SPC. So, any questions about that? All right, ended up being a little longer than I thought, but that's the report.
Thank you. Those are all important things. All right, we will move on to the action items. Would any board member like to remove any items from the consent agenda? All right, then before the board tonight, we have meeting minutes from the July 20th regular school board meeting. We have minutes from the July 20th school board retreat. We have bills and recommendations regarding the payroll and receipts. We also have recommendations regarding employment, as well as a series of first readings of Neola policies. If you remember, Neola has been in this updating process, and so these are the policies that were discussed in July. And because of that, we don't have any second readings on the consent agenda. So at this point, is there a motion to approve minutes, bills, employment, and Neola policies, the first readings as presented?
So moved.
Thank you, Monica. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Alan. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Let's see, how many of us? Four. No, 5 of us.
5 of us.
5.
We're hot.
All right. So, the Ad Hoc Policy Committee met, and it was on July 6th. I was not able to be there, but the committee carried on and did lots of important work. There are some policies that are listed here in the 800s, the 7,000, or the 8,000, 7,000, 4,000s, and 1,000s, as well as the 000s, I don't know what we say, that we are looking at for approval. And then we have these specific first readings that were pulled out because there were some slight adjustments. Dave is going to go through all 3 of these, and then I'll take one motion covering all of them.
One thing that the board noticed, I heard individual board members mention this to me, is the new format for Neola. So they went through a update to the way that their policies are held. And that's why we had a little bit of a delay. So we have to remember all the way back to July 6th when it was just like the beginning of summer. We were just like, and now here we are at the end of summer. But one thing you'll notice, I think the format long-term is going to be better. But there is, in transposing the work that we did before the change to now, you're seeing some things like the main problem is spacing, right? There's a spot where there's 2 big chunks of spacing, and then there's one where they're stacked right on top of each other. Amanda's done a nice job of letting Neola know that that's not what we want.
I have been assured that everything will look beautiful when it's all implemented.
Absolutely.
So no worries.
And we didn't want to delay. We wanted to get this information to people. So, but if you're seeing things like that, know that we will correct those. So with that, I'll talk about three policies that on July 6th we talked about, and we wanted to have some clarification too, and I've added that clarification. So on page 142 of the overall packet, which is policy 8120, we had a section where initially we had some
I have that on page 234.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Okay.
It's
Just as if
8120.
anyone's really,
Yours is printed differently because you don't have all the information.
That's right,
in it.
that's
okay.
Thank
Just
you.
if anybody wants to
It's the
follow along.
printed copy versus the
The online.
because some of the printed one, we don't,
Okay.
some of the bills, we don't print them because that's a lot of paper. Thank you, that's a good clarification.
Thank you.
for that. So when we talked about it on July 6th, there was a little bit of confusion between how the volunteers communicate digitally or not, and we wanted to be abundantly clear that our volunteers go through a process to be approved as volunteers, but one thing that we don't expect them to do is to communicate in any digital way with students in their role as a volunteer. So the third paragraph explicitly says that volunteers do not have access to digital communication tools and platforms. So that would be they don't have school email, they don't have a Google Classroom, they don't have access to IC, Infinite Campus. They also then aren't approved to use some of the other platforms that our employees are approved to use. So that means the expectation is that in the scope of their duties, they're not communicating with students electronically. They would rely on appropriate staff to communicate with students. So if I'm a volunteer assistant coach, great. If I need to send a message to students that I want to send a reminder for them to bring their X-colored jerseys to, I would rely on a paid coach to send that message through appropriate approved means. I don't have the ability to do that, and I shouldn't be using other means to do it. So that was a clarification that we had there on that one. Moving on to the next one, required reporting of staff conduct. The piece here that we updated was also the third paragraph, and it had to do with if the report of immoral conduct, which is this topic, was about the superintendent, what is the process that the district uses? And I think initially it just said, it just talked about the report, and the report would go to the school board president. What we clarified here is that if there is a complaint under this policy regarding the superintendent or school board or a school board member, it would be referred to the district, the school board's legal counsel, who will assume the role of the compliance officer for such complaints. So if those are the entities that the complaint's about, we have a third-party legal counsel that is the one that acts as the compliance officer for such complaints, and you can see why, right? With the responsibilities of the superintendent of the school board, we wouldn't want any of those findings to be questioned, so we use outside legal counsel for that. So that is that one, and then the last policy that we updated was student mental health and physical health services, and the update here is under the heading coordination of on-site services, face-to-face and or virtual, section C. It's a minor change, but it's an important clarification. And the change reflects current practice, but we just want to make sure that it's in policy. To be eligible to receive services at school, students and parents must have a signed waiver and indemnification agreement. So the piece there is it didn't say parents before, and we want to make it abundantly clear that these services are done in coordination and partnership with parents. They're not done outside of parents, right? So that's the piece that we want to make sure that is part of this as a policy, because that reflects the work that we're doing. So those are the three updates.
Are there any questions about them? Then is there a motion to approve the first reading of Neola Policy 8120 regarding volunteers, 8141 required reporting of staff conduct, and 8395 student mental and physical health services?
So moved.
Thank you, Lindsay. Is there a second?
seconded.
Thank you, Monica. Further discussion? All those in favor? Aye. The motion is carried, 5-0. All right, the Personnel Committee met on August 10th, and during that meeting, oh, I forgot you, Ellen, I'm sorry. Golly, it was
I take
such an
that personally,
efficient
Stacy.
meeting. No, it was such an efficient meeting, it would go on. I'm sorry, you go ahead.
Didn't offend me, but Mary Beth and.
No, it was a really important meeting, so.
The Ed Programs Committee met on August 10th, and we basically had two non-action agenda items, but one was an update on summer school and some of the changes that have happened this year around summer school and the planning around summer school and what's going on there. And I think that was real informative for us to see what's been going on over the summer. And then we had an academic services update about their planning and where they're going for this coming year, which was really informative. Very good discussion on both of them. I don't know, Mary Beth and Amy, do you want to add some things to what we talked about?
Yeah, for summer school, we just highlighted the increased enrollment this year, and we attribute it to a few things. We spent a lot of time building a wider range of course offerings based on family feedback, so we incorporated that as well as expanding some of our transportation. As far as the other pieces is we're always refining and looking to increasing our program and making it better. We've been already meeting with buildings and grounds and transportation to see how we might make our program even better. Just a heads up, like I said, we've already started planning, so more information will be coming out around January for next summer already, and registration will likely open right around second conferences in February, so. Yep.
It was a really great conversation.
Yeah, it
And
was.
it was wonderful to hear the new ideas and the ways in which you were able to pull different groups in the district to help our kids get those experiences, including busing. So thank you. All right, and also, as I was saying, on the 10th, the Personnel Committee met. We had a variety of topics. First of all, we heard a staffing update that was really good news. Nate's worked hard on that, and I'm hoping it's staying the same today as it was last week, except if you got some of those spots filled in. We also reviewed Nate's goals as the Human Resource Director, his goals for 2026-27. And we had some job descriptions in front of us to approve the revised district nurse job description. It was to match what is current practice, as well as to look at the secretary job descriptions at the high school to make sure that everything is balanced in the way that we want it to be. And then we approved changes or some revisions to the 2026-27 substitute employee handbook, which is a really good document to help our substitutes and make sure that we have high quality teaching when our teachers are away. You want to add anything?
No, sounds good.
Okay. So at this point, I will move that we approve the updated district nurse job description as well as the updated high school secretary job descriptions. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Lindsay. Any discussion? Thank you for getting all of those just slight adjustments that we talked about at the meeting taken care of. All those in favor? Aye. The motion is carried. Is there a motion to approve revisions to the 2026-27 substitute employee handbook?
So moved.
Thank you, Monica. Is there a second?
A second.
Thank you, Tong. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
The motion is carried. Lynette, I will turn to you for E, and if you could talk with us about the annual meeting and the budget hearing, and then how that fits with what information we'll find out in, what is it, October?
Yes.
Okay.
Exactly. Okay, so we are already doing preparations for the annual meeting and budget hearing in September. And one of the things that is in that meeting, in the information in the booklet that we provide for that evening, and then also are required to publish, is the preliminary budget for 26-27. And it's preliminary, even though we're already in the year and starting to expend funds and receive funds in. However, we're still waiting for a lot of final numbers, as Stacy mentioned. Many of those don't come in until October. So what we're using as our best estimates. This year, we are in the 26-27 fiscal year is the second year of the biennium. So we have been looking at these numbers for several months, back to March, I think. We've seen some preliminary budgets as well. This really mirrors what you saw in July as the preliminary budget. I gave those to you with the Skyward printouts, our financial software. This is now in the adopted, or the format that is recommended by DPI for adopting the budget. So that's why we give it to you again in this format, and then that's why we put it in the annual meeting booklet and publish it in this format. So, you know, what are we using to bring these numbers in? When we look at revenue, you all know that our biggest sources of revenue are state aid and our tax levy. So where do we get that number from? We get that from the revenue limit worksheet. What drives that worksheet? Our enrollment. So we're still using estimates in there, and in particular for 4K. And when we look at last year's senior class, we graduated the largest class that we have or had current last year is now graduated. So we are looking at and estimating a decline in enrollment, which then when we use that 3-year average for our revenue limit continues to bring that down. So that's what these numbers are using. And we will tweak that after we'll get those final numbers in October. So those are our largest buckets. And what happens with the revenue limit and enrollment does can change things. But some of the other factors, our state aid and the levy, are kind of a push and pull. So once we have that revenue limit, what happens with the number for state aid really just impacts how much we're going to levy for taxes. It doesn't mean we have more money to spend. So those are those two numbers that kind of play with each other inside that revenue limit. Okay. So that's what we're using. Those are the things we're using for those big revenue estimates. And then we have all of our other local things. And we look at historical numbers. This interest rates are always kind of been a wild card the last couple of years. We want to be conservative, but there's those interest rates staying high. So a lot of times we do those budget adjustments throughout the year when we're seeing that. So anyway, I'll take your attention down then to the 600s partway through the first page. So when we look at the state aid, as I mentioned, that is a July 1 estimate that we get from DPI. And so we've got that in there. Again, we'll get those final numbers in October. And open enrollment, sorry to skip around, but to go up to the 340, that's our open enrollment estimate. And although that, that's over almost $2.5 million, it's less than 5% of our revenue. So just kind of put that in perspective, even when that fluctuates. So that's really our general fund revenue. Expenditures, we are going to continue to tweak those. What we have in here for estimates are really what the increases in salaries and benefits. That's our biggest driver because it's almost 80% of our budget, our salaries and benefits. So we have those estimate increases in for all of the different classifications. Now what we spend a lot of time doing is getting staff members specifically in those numbers. So where are they on the salary schedule? And so what is their salary? What benefits are they taking? What that cost is? So we're doing all of that leading right up until we're still doing it when the annual meeting happens, and then right up until you see that October budget to pass. So that's expenditures for Fund 10. Our Fund 21 budget, that's our student activities. So that's the fundraising and all of our activities. Again, I will reiterate what Dave mentioned earlier when he showed all the donations. This is our community supporting all of the activities that we have in our schools. So pretty nice numbers there. Mm-hmm. We go down to special education, our Fund 27. The biggest revenue sources there is our state aid, which is based on our expenditures from the previous year. And if you look at that, number 610 is the state aid. That's that number we've been talking about, that percentage where although in the state budget for 26-27, the estimate, and I'll use air quotes, the estimate is 45% reimbursement of our expenses from 25-26, we're using a conservative 40%. Last year, the state budget estimated it to be 42%, and we saw just over 38% reimbursement rate. So again, we've said that all throughout the year. I'm going to say it again. So that's what that $3 million is. That's at 40% reimbursement. Then our other large source of revenue is then the transfer from the general fund. And Amanda, if you go up towards the top, that's the 100. That's our, sorry, top of that page.
Okay.
Yep, there you go.
Okay.
Perfect. So that 100 is our transfer in. So as our reimbursement rate goes up from the state, our transfer essentially could go down. And that's what we're seeing here slightly, not a whole lot. But that's because our expenses for providing the needs of our students that are in special education continue to rise as well. So those are our two drivers for revenue in Fund 27. And then when we move to expenses, same thing. It's our salaries and benefits. So same thing that I mentioned for Fund 10. Debt service is our Fund 39, and that is making those debt payments. And what we are budgeting right now is, to bring in, and our levy for those is exactly what we need to make the debt payments. There's no additional funds being levied for those payments. It's just exactly what is required. And then if we go down to capital projects, we have two funds there. We have Fund 46, which is what we sometimes say are summer capital projects, or capital, the trust fund for capital projects. That's in there. And then also Fund 49. Those are going to be the remaining funds from that 2024 $28 million referendum. And you can see, we're going to be spending those down in Fund 49. Those need to be spent by the end of this fiscal year, the 26-27 fiscal year. So, and then moving on to Fund 50, that is our our food service fund. Just working with Pat, we did make an approval for increasing those fees for meals. And so using those estimates of revenue and then the expenses, working with Pat on those. And then Fund 80. So we also did talk about Fund 80 and increasing the levy for Fund 80. We had set a range to continue to build fund balance there, and then to make sure that our levy is essentially helping fund those programs in Fund 80, those community ed programs at a reasonable percentage as well. So right now we are looking at, then that last section is our proposed tax levy. You can see that going from 220 for the community service fund levy up to 260. Again, that's an estimate, and I think when we get those final numbers in October, that might be a time where maybe we set it at 260, maybe it's not that high, but we'll have those conversations then. So, and that's really all I have. Any questions?
So just to make sure that everybody understands, you will be presenting this at the annual meeting for the budget portion of this.
Correct.
And then the community will be voting on it.
Correct.
Right, all right. Is there a motion to approve the 2026-27 budget for the annual meeting and budget hearing?
So moved.
John, is there a second?
I'll second.
Lindsay? And when we say that this is an estimate, this is consistent with what all of the districts in Wisconsin need to do because of the way in which we get information from the state.
That's correct. Yes.
Can I just add one quick thing? I've said something similar in previous years, but I think because it's important to point out, because, Lynette, you keep us in the loop throughout the year at all of our finance and facilities meetings and at our school board meetings, when we get to this point where we're looking at reaching the community and saying, this is what we're putting out for you to vote on, we have a strong grasp on why these numbers are what we're putting out to the community. So that's a credit to you and your ability to walk us through 1 month at a time and anticipate and know what is represented here. So thank you for that work.
Thanks. Appreciate that. Thank you.
Anything else? Good point, Lindsay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, that motion is carried. And now, Mark, you get the next two items here. So the first one is to look at a service agreement with UWRF. Could you talk with us about that, please?
Absolutely, and it says a new service agreement, but this is actually an ongoing service
Yeah.
agreement that we've done for I think the last 6 or 7 years. So I think I chatted with you all at I think it was an ed program meeting about the increasing needs in our 4K sections as for our student support. This is just one way that allows us to serve students in their natural environment with general education peers, and have those programs occur with all of the other 4K settings. So this is a shared paraprofessional. Basically, we take the time that she is at the University 4K Center and split that time, and then we kind of allocate the funds that way. So again, it's a nice cooperative arrangement to provide the best services for our students with needs at the university.
Okay, so is there a motion to approve the service agreement with the University of Wisconsin River Falls, the preschool program, to share the cost of a special education paraprofessional for the 2026-27 school year, as Mark has just presented?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, Monica, you got the motion. Ellen, you are seconding. Questions? This is a great way of supporting our kids and pooling our resources. All those in favor?
Aye.
The motion is carried, and now we have another agreement for Project Search.
Yeah, and so this is actually for Project Search as well as Deaf and Hard of Hearing. So these are two programs that we offer in a fiscally responsible way. We seek to partner with neighboring districts, so we don't have to hire like a full-time staff and then try to figure out like what we're going to do with them, because we don't have quite enough to fill out a full-time position. Had we gone and contracted for deaf, hard of hearing services through, a CISA or something, the cost would be a little bit higher. They offer great service, but it tends to be a little bit more expensive than if we hired the person directly and then allowed some neighboring smaller districts to kind of take some of that on with us. So in the case of the deaf, hard of hearing position, Prescott has contracted with us for 15% of that FTE. And then Ellsworth is also contracted with us for 15% of that FTE. So we hold 70%, and between Ellsworth and Prescott, they take 30%. So that's with deaf, hard of hearing. Also with Project Search, which is a great program kind of pushing kind of vocational skills for many of our 5th year or 6th year students with disabilities. It's a program that we probably couldn't run if we just had it only in-house. So we seek out interns from neighboring communities. This year we have 2 from Ellsworth, and then we have 1 student who's kind of an adult student who was kind of help funded through the adult program, IRIS. So that allows us to have a full program. And if you've ever had a chance to kind of see graduation or see some of the programming that Natasha and Emily are providing, it's a fantastic program and really allows the students to make some reasonable or real gains as far as that real world employment.
And social and community connections among the group of students in Search. It's pretty impressive. Thank you. So at this point, is there a motion to approve the Deaf and Hard of Hearing program agreement with Prescott and Ellsworth School District for 2026-27?
So moved.
Thank you, Ellen. Is there a second? Was that
me.
Was that you? Okay. Discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
The motion is carried. And now is there a motion to approve the Project Search 660301 agreement with the Ellsworth School District for the 26-27 school year?
Second.
Thank you, John. You mentioned that we wouldn't be able to do this if it were just our district. Neither would Ellsworth.
Right,
So
correct.
this is a wonderful way
Yes.
that we are, as a broader community, able to support the needs of a particular group of folks. So it's good. Questions or comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
The motion is carried. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you.
All right, during the superintendent's report, Dave talked about the process that we will use to establish our upcoming strategic plan. And to facilitate this, we have a recommendation before us for the Joe Schrader Consulting firm to be our facilitator. So, at this point, I will make a motion to approve the contract with the Joe Schrader Consulting Firm to facilitate the development of an updated strategic plan as presented in our book.
I'll second that.
Thank you. Questions or comments? And do you want to add anything to this?
In the packet, it talks about the scope of work. So at our retreat, I explained the process by which we collected information from firms that do this in Wisconsin. We evaluated the work that they had done against the strategic plans that they had been developed in different school districts. We did reference calls to each of those places. And two things came forth pretty quickly, and that was we felt the work that Joe Schrader is proposing aligned to the timeline and the process by which we wanted to complete our strategic plan. And he also, from a cost standpoint, was significantly less expensive than some of the other organizations that do this work. And so we felt that was sort of a win-win. And so just to review the scope of work so everybody understands that it's outlined in the packet, but JSC will prepare and facilitate all designated strategic planning committee meetings, these SPC meetings, which are identified as phase 1 and phase 2 in the proposal. So there'll be a phase 1 work that will happen in mid to late January, and then we'll come back in phase 2 will be early to mid-February. So JSC facilitates that work. In addition, he's responsible for developing all meeting agendas, all related documents, including the deliverable advisory documents from each phase of the SPC work to the school board for the ultimate consideration and action. He will also advise the district as needed regarding the strategic planning process through the completion of phase 1 and or phase 2. So this allows the district to enter into a very organized, systemic framework to adopt a strategic plan that will set out our goals for the next 5 years. And we feel like trying to do it ourselves has some pitfalls, and bringing in an experienced facilitator who's done this work in different districts and for different organizations within the state makes a lot of sense. However, we have to be we have to have an eye on costs, and sometimes organizations that do this, the cost is pretty expensive, and so we feel pretty excited that we can have a well-respected, high-quality person. In the packet is a profile of Joe Schrader, so I think that's helpful as well. And then I would just note what we're approving here is option 1. There's some information about Appendix A support, and Appendix A support would be sort of after the strategic plan is completed. We would have the option to bring him back to work with the admin team. We're not asking for that approval right now. If we get to that point, we'll come back and have that full approval. So.
There's virtue in having an outside perspective to help facilitate this process. Otherwise, it might just be too much of us. We need somebody to help us take us beyond ourselves.
I agree. I think this is wonderful.
I'm really excited. Looking forward to community input on this. Just all of our stakeholders, but the community as a whole. The community seems to have been very connected with us in the last few years. Referendum support, all those kinds of things. And I'm anxious to hear what they have to say.
Anything else? All those in favor? Aye. The motion is carried. All right, if you remember, there are some policies that the state of Wisconsin is requiring us to have in place by September 1st, which means we need to add to our current body of policies before we turn the switch on the Neola policies. So we have these 3 in front of us. 363.2 rule regarding school or student technology, acceptable use and safety. We have a policy 390 about student supervision and welfare. And 191, school board member behavior, communications, and code of conduct. We've already approved these for the first reading, so before us today will be the second reading. If we approve them tonight, we will make our deadline of September 1. So is there a motion to approve the 3 policies that I just stated?
So moved.
Thank you, Lindsay. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Ellen, thank you. Any questions or comments? Eventually, these will become Neola policies.
And these are just really quickly,
Yep.
because we talked about it, there's no changes from last month. These are all related to Act 89, which was legislation that's put in place to protect students. And so there's students, and these policy updates talk about appropriate communications, digital communications between students and staff, and we've outlined very clearly both in the student acceptable use policy as well as the student supervision and welfare policy, how that's gonna go out. And then it also defines what a boundary violation looks like and what grooming behavior looks like. And obviously explicitly indicates that the district doesn't allow that and will investigate if those things are alleged.
Anything else? All those in favor? Aye. The motion is carried. All right, are there any proposed items for future agendas? Then we are going to move on and schedule meetings. So the Educational Program Committee will meet Monday, September 14th at 6 o'clock. Finance and Facilities will meet Monday, September 21st at 6 o'clock. The Personnel Committee will meet Monday, September 21st at 7 o'clock or immediately following Finance and Facilities. The annual meeting and budget hearing will be Monday, September 28th at 6 o'clock at River Falls High School. And then following that meeting will be the regular board meeting at 7 o'clock. And that will, we will meet at the high school then.
We have a policy
Yeah, just,
meeting.
I think it's out of, because it's out of sequence.
I was gonna do that, but I was
Yeah.
just,
Okay.
the other meetings are going to be at the district office, but then, 2 Mondays from now, the
Yeah.
last Monday of
The 31st.
August, we
Yes.
have policy ad hoc.
Yeah, our August
Yep.
meeting, which would have normally been on the 3rd, didn't work for the ad hoc committee, so we're putting that on August 31st. And that's gonna be a real fun one, because it's a lot of the policies that have been tabled in the past.
But it's our only meeting,
Excited.
and so we're
Yeah.
gonna see the end in
Yeah.
sight on this, so we're
And
just
I've
gonna be
invited the
diligent.
entire admin team.
All
Super
night
jacked
long.
about it.
Yes.
So then we have the one on the 31st, we are not then scheduling one in September
Correct.
itself? Okay, thank you.
The-
I want to make
the-
sure I was understanding that.
The action that we will take now is if there's anything, any other policies that we want to address, we'll do it within our committee structure.
Okay.
So the initial conversation will happen at a committee meeting and then we'll do first and second reads.
Perfect.
So we don't have triple headers as a rule.
Stacy, on the 28th, the annual meeting happens in the auditorium, but our regular board meeting will
We'll
then
go
move
into
to
the media center.
I don't think so.
They're-
We'll just do it all there.
In the same spot.
Yeah,
Because
last
then the
year,
recording works.
Yeah.
you can't do streaming in 2 spots, so
Yeah.
it just makes
Yeah,
sense
that's
to.
right,
yeah,
okay, so we'll stay there.
Yep.
We'll stay there and we'll
It's
do
hard
it
to
on the
hear, I
stage or
know,
whatever.
Yeah.
but
That's,
it-
so that's the reminder, everybody has to speak up really loud because it's hard to hear on the stage from here. Maybe we can scrunch together closer, but,
yeah, we can scrunch.
so that'll all be, all right. Yeah, we didn't do that last year.
All right, we are adjourning at 6:57.
Thank you, Stacy.